Qualitative research methods. In this video, we will look at different elicitation techniques in interviewing for research. Elicitation techniques are the use of stimuli such as verbal, visual, or written to encourage participants to share their ideas and oftentimes to uncover texted knowledge, things that people do not talk about very often. Elicitation techniques are very useful in beginning interviews and sometimes necessary when researchers have to work with particular participant groups, such as young children, people with disabilities, or when the research topics are deemed controversial or sensitive. Today, we are looking at three categories of elicitation techniques: arrangement task, construction task, and explanation task. With the arrangement task, we will look at two common arrangement activities: sorting and ordering. With the sorting task, this task seeks to understand participants' conceptual categories or how they conceptualize specific ideas. To do this, first, the researcher will give participants a set of cards with content on them and ask them to categorize into different groups. After categorization, researchers ask participants to explain their decisions. The thing to note about sorting task is the idea that participants will conceptualize the categories based on their own conceptualizations. Researchers don't have to give criteria for categories to participants. Instead, researchers will look for participants' self-conceptualization of each category and learn about that from the following up after interview after they categorize. The next arrangement task is ordering. With ordering, this task is also used to investigate participants' conceptual ideas or how they perceive the significance of specific items. For this ordering task, the researchers will first give participants a set of cards and ask them to arrange the cards in sequence with specific criteria, or researchers can ask participants to single out a number of cards that best represent the research concept or topic. After the participants already arrange the cards or single out the cards that best represent the research topic, the researcher will ask participants to further elaborate on their choices. This task is especially useful when researchers want to identify the significance of specific items or how participants prioritize different concepts. The next kind of elicitation task is construction task. There are three common construction tasks: drawing, projective devices, free listing, and sentence completion. With the drawing task, it's a very useful and commonly used among population that has limited capacity in responding in verbal and written form, such as very young children who haven't got the ability to answer questions in written form or fully formulate sentences. Drawing tasks give participants and researchers an insight into how participants conceptualize about spatial areas, or how participants use a set of symbols to represent what they think. The researchers will give participants the opportunity to draw pictures that represent the research ideas. After that, participants are encouraged to talk about the symbols that are used in their drawings. This method is commonly used in art-based research and research about perception on geographic spaces. It also should be noted that the use of symbols may be similar or vary depending on the population, and the main purpose of drawing task is to uncover how participants use the symbols and what symbols mean to them. The next construction task is projective devices or project works. This approach is applicable with a large group of participants. Some well-known instruments for projective devices, such as Rorschach test, in which participants describe what they see in a standardized set of ink blots, or the thematic apperception test, in which students tell stories about ambiguous images of people in daily settings. In educational research, researchers rarely use those two instruments. Instead, they design their own projective work. For example, researchers will provide participants with some settings or scenarios and ask for participants' reactions in such settings or scenarios. These kind of research are very common in civic education research, in which participants are often asked how they would react to certain scenarios that happen in the public life. The next construction task is free listing. With a free listing task, it's quite simple. It helps to reveal the boundaries of cultural domains and identify some items that are prevalent in each cultural setting. To do this task, the researcher will ask participants to list out items that answer specific questions. The questions could be as simple as the most important events in the cultural area, some influential people in the area, some values and beliefs of the local people. Because of its simplicity, free listing can be done with a large population, and what's more, the collected data can be analyzed both qualitatively and quantitatively. However, it should be noted that the data from free listing is not as in-depth as the data from interview. If the researchers want to get more in-depth data, the researchers will often have to go through the list and ask for further elaboration from participants. The next construction task is sentence completion. Sentence completion can actually put in the same group with free listing, but it actually narrow down and focus on specific groups or area of research. So basically, the researchers will provide a stem or some sample or beginning part of the sentence and ask participants to complete the sentence with words or phrases. Some researchers may discuss further with participants about their answers, while some just use the sentences as data for analysis. The next kind of elicitation technique is explanation task. There are three common activities for explanation task: think aloud, stimulated recall, or photo elicitation. With thinking aloud, this technique is aimed at understanding participants' thinking process or their cognitive process. To do this, the researchers will ask participants to share their thinking as they are involving in some task or right after the task. So the researchers will ask such questions such as how the participants construct the meaning, how they analyze problems and propose solutions, and the researchers expect participants to say it out loud as they think. This task is very common in research that try to understand the cognition or the cognitive process or how learning happens in a specific setting. The stimulated recall is also a sort of explanation task, but it's more retrospective than thinking out loud. In this process, Participants were asked to recall their thinking process after they finished their task. To do that, researchers often have to film or record participants while they carry out the task. After that, participants are invited to watch the recorded videos and recall their thinking while they carry out the actions. The researchers would ask questions such as, "What was going on there for you? What's happening there?" With this kind of research or research technique, is often used among pre-service teachers, especially to reflect on their teaching beliefs or how they react during their teaching practice. The last kind of explanation task is called photo elicitation. Photo elicitation is basically the use of photo to gain understanding of participants' viewpoints or in order to unearth the community values, beliefs, and attitudes. There are two popular ways to use photo elicitation. The more traditional approach is to use researchers' photos, the photos that prepared by researchers, which often show the local people, places, settings, or some traditions where participants live. And the researchers will ask participants to talk about what they see in the photos or what the photos mean to them. Another way to use photo elicitation is photo voice. With photo voice, the researcher will ask participants to use a camera and take pictures of the surroundings, and later ask the participant to talk about what they see in the photos, how and why they took the photos. Photo elicitation has been quite common among anthropologists to learn about local cultures and customs. So let's look through some of the very brief techniques related to elicitation. If you want to learn more about elicitation in interviewing, there are a few good resources that you can refer to. The three foundational books related to qualitative research are Research Methods in Anthropology by Bernard, Educational Research Planning, Conducting, and Evaluating Quantitative Research by Creswell, and How to Design and Evaluate Research in Education by Fraenkel, Wallen, and Hyun. And if you want to read a shorter version of this presentation in a journal article, you can refer to Elicitation Techniques article by Keith Barton on theory and research in social education. Enjoy!